Remodelers and custom builders, welcome back to the Remodeler Growth Framework. Last video, we talked all about close, which was the sales process. And now we are on to the final pillar, which is measure. And we are going to talk about how to measure the entire sales and marketing funnel. So it starts in marketing, but it ends in sales. Both of those departments have to work together to actually bring in new revenue and new customers. Without measurement, you will just be guessing on all of your decisions. And that gets really expensive really quickly. So we want to make sure that you're measuring the right things and that you can make those decisions, big decisions, confidently moving forward, and you can see the growth and the scale that you're looking for. So we're going to start with the engine behind your business. After we talk about the engine, which I'll get to in a second, we're going to look at the marketing and sales funnel. So again, this is not just marketing, it's marketing and sales. It's your revenue funnel. And then we're going to talk about source, which is what channels are working, what's not working. But we've got to start with the engine. And so the engine is what tells us, hey, do we have a working model here? Is it profitable? Is what we're putting in, are we getting a lot more out of it? And so for the engine, we're going to look at a couple of different metrics, and hopefully they should be fairly straightforward in how to calculate them. But this will give you a good grasp on if you should keep going, if you should make any adjustments. So we're going to start with LTV, which is what is a customer worth to your business? What is a customer worth to you? And this is really important to figure out because then you can figure out, well, what is it worth spending to get a customer? But first we need to know, what is a customer worth to your business? And this is actually where a lot of companies, they skip this and they will jump straight to marketing budgets, and we haven't even figured out what you could spend or would spend to bring in more customers. So LTV, and then we're going to need our cost to acquire, which is what does it cost to get a customer? And then how big is the spread? And so that ratio is just looking at those two. And we want the spread to be as big as possible. So let's walk through an example here. Let's say an average project size for you is $100,000. Sure, you have some projects that are more, some that are less, but your average is 100. And you have a 30% gross margin, meaning the other 70% is cost of goods. So your materials, labor, all the stuff that it takes to do the project, that's gone, and you're left with 30% gross margin. That's going to be $30,000. So that is our lifetime value. This is what an average customer is worth to your business. Cool. Now let's talk about sales and marketing. Cost to acquire. So let's say you spent 250 grand on sales and marketing over the last 12 months. Some of that's sales commission, some of that's CRM, some of that is office staff. Maybe you have an office manager that spends 20% of their time on the newsletter, a little bit of social media, some marketing activities. Then maybe you're working with an agency and you're also running some ads. So you have this big bucket of both marketing and sales, 250 grand, and that got you 25 customers. If we take how much you spent on sales and marketing, divide it by the number of customers that you signed, this will give us what it actually costs you to acquire a customer. And this is important to know because we need to know, hey, you are spending money on marketing, but you're also spending money on sales. And again, both of those things are required to bring in new customers. And then the customers go in, you do the project, and they are worth whatever the gross margin is. And so we're going to look at this ratio, which is the 30K, compared to the 10, and that is 3 to 1. And you just divide this, take this number, divide it by that, and that becomes this number here, and this will be 1. And so when you're looking at this, you're saying, okay, I put $1 into my sales and marketing machine, and I got 3 back. So that's the trade we just made in this scenario. So now you might be thinking, well, is this a good trade? So if you are less than 3 to 1, we're going to fix the engine. If you're more than 3 to 1, we are going to step on the gas. And so this can be a very quick way to figure out, hey, do I have a working model here with my sales and marketing machine? Now, if you're getting referrals, word of mouth, and those projects are just coming in for free, awesome. But if you're trying to scale, you probably noticed that word of mouth and referrals, you'll grow and you'll hit a plateau, and then you're at that plateau, you'll bounce up and down a little bit, but you're kind of stuck there. When you actually start investing in sales and marketing, these are the numbers you need to be aware of because you're pouring money in and you need to make sure you're getting more back than you're pouring in. And so if you are less than 3 to 1, that's an indication that we need to examine these two things, which we'll talk about in a second, and fix the engine before we put a lot more into it. Now, if you are more than 3 to 1, say you're 4, 5, 6 to 1, you're saying, great, I put $1 in, I get 6 back, then cool, let's just do a lot more of that. So this is an easy indicator. It's kind of like a red light, green light on what you need to do. But if you haven't taken the time to figure this out, when you're analyzing your marketing budget, you don't have the right context to figure out, is my engine even a working engine to begin with? Once you know you've got a working engine, then you can dive in and go, okay, do I need to fix it or do I need to step on the gas? If I'm fixing it, where am I going to fix it? And we can diagnose that through here and here. Or if I want to step on the gas, I might even be able to get some improvements along the way, make some tweaks to the engine as I'm scaling it up. So that's what we're going to dive into next. So look for this number, more than 3 to 1. And remember, you need to start with what a customer is worth, what it costs to get a customer, and then we're going to look at this ratio right here. Okay, so let's talk about our funnel. And again, it's not just a marketing funnel. It is a marketing and sales funnel. It is a revenue funnel. And so we are going to start with, let's get this here. All right, so there is our funnel, and we're going to start at the top with impressions and traffic. So if you remember back to attract, we have the bullseye where we're trying to pull in more of the right type of people to your website. We're gaining impressions, we're getting traffic to our website. So that comes in first. Then once we've got traffic, we need to convert it into leads. Remember, pillar 2 was all about convert, right? We're getting people to our website. Now they're filling out forms, they're booking calls, they're calling us directly, they're emailing us directly, they're using those on-ramps to the sales process. So they are converting into leads. After leads, we've got pre-qual. These are the first phone calls, right? We've got leads. Remember, close was all about following up with leads to get more meetings. Nurture is an automated way of following up with leads until they're ready to book a call. And now we've got them on the call. Next, we want to know, okay, of those pre-qualification calls, how many were actually qualified? We call those sales qualified leads. So if you remember back to close, when we talked about scripts, right project, right budget, right location, generally a good fit. Cool, we want more leads like that. That is an SQL. And then after that, we go to our first appointment guess I need this a little bit longer. All right. After first appointment, we're selling design, or this is pre-construction, or if you're doing free estimates, that would be still in this stage. And then we've got customers. Okay, so that is our revenue funnel. It starts all the way at attract, getting more traffic to our website, getting more impressions, getting more people to know about your company, that it exists, and that it could be the right solution for them. Leads are when people engage with you. They fill out a form, they reach out to you, they say, hey, I think that you might be the right company for me. And then we work them through a nurture and a close process to try to get them on the phone, book more meetings, and we're going to qualify them. If they're qualified, they become an SQL. Then we're going to say, hey, I think you should take the next step, which is to meet at your home. Let me come take a look. Let's talk about the project. That's the first appointment. At the end of that, we present the offer. And for many of you, that is design or pre-construction, but it also could be a free estimate. And then from there, we close a certain percentage into customers. So let's look at a sample funnel here. We might have 5,000 visits to our website. Out of those, we might get 100 leads. Out of the 100 leads, we may only get 30% of them onto a phone call. Now again, if you're using close, which we talked about in the last video, you could get this number up a lot higher. You could book a lot more of your leads into meetings. Then we got to see, okay, we had a bunch of these calls, but how many were actually qualified? So you might have weeded out 10 and said, hey, these actually were wrong area, or budget was too small, or whatever the case may be. But we said, nope, we don't want to meet with those people. And then a very high percentage of people that we say, yes, this is a good fit, should advance to the next stage. So you might have 18 of those, and then you might close a third of those into design, to your next step. And then most everyone should move forward out of design into construction. And so when you look at your entire revenue funnel, you can see, okay, for every 5,000 visits I get about 5 customers. Really, this metric is better looking at number of leads that come into your business. For every 100 leads, I get 5 customers. And so a quick evaluation could say, well, if I could ramp this to 200 leads, I might get 10 customers. Now I'm going to show you a better way to evaluate that as we look at source, so that we can try to figure out, okay, but maybe I could actually just get more customers out of the same 100 leads if I knew where some of these better fit leads were coming from. And so that's why we need to go to the next step, which is source. But at a glance, this is the funnel that you want to be tracking so that you can see your conversion rate at every step of the process. And so if you see that there is a big drop off somewhere, you can explore. So when we see this big drop off, wow, we got 100 leads, but we only got 30 on the phone, we might say, okay, this is a great opportunity to go back, and I'm going to go through the nurture pillar and I'm going to go through the close pillar and see what I can work on to get more of my leads on the phone and booking meetings. Because if you can get this to 40 or 50 instead of 30, you get the same conversion rates down here. 50 leads here instead of 30, or meetings would bring you up, let's see, about 2/3. So your revenue would grow by 66% if all of this just stays the same and converts at the same rate. And so you might say, wow, if I could grow my business by 66% just by fixing this one step right here from lead to meeting, that is worth working on. So, and then you know exactly where to focus as well. And that's the key, is if you have all this, you don't have to just say, I need more customers. What am I going to do? There's a million things going on. You can kind of go through this funnel and say, oh, this is actually my biggest area of opportunity, and then go focus there. So that is the revenue funnel and the metrics to track. And now we're going to move to source. And so in the funnel, we look at top to bottom, but in source, we're going to look at bottom up. And so we're going to look at those channels first, which is where are we getting? And we're going to remember that this is a bottom up approach. Okay, so if I was trying to figure out how to improve my funnel here, my revenue funnel. And I was saying, I got 5 customers, but I need more customers. I'm trying to get this to 10. First, when we're looking at all of this, we want to look at these 5. And so we want to look at customers. And we'd say, okay, where did these 5 customers come from? And so you're going to have to look at the channels, which again, if you go back to attract, we talk all about the different channels. But if I have 5 customers, I'm going to look at those customers. I'm going to go into my marketing software, my CRM, and I'm going to look at those 5. I'm going to, okay, these 5 came from, was organic, and we got 3 from there, and then we had paid ads, and we got 2 from there. And so now, when we're trying to improve customers, we're going to look at, well, gosh, we got all 5 customers from these 2 channels, so let's look at those channels. I'm going to come back to this in a second, and we'll walk through how to evaluate it. But the next thing, let's say you don't know how many customers you've gotten. Maybe you just started your marketing, and you're driving some traffic, you're getting some leads, they're moving through the sales process. You haven't signed anyone yet, but you do have these 6 people in design and construction, then or pre-con. We're going to look at that next. And so, sure, we don't have any revenue to tie this to, but we've got 6 people that are all the way down here, almost at the finish line. And so we can use this data to make some decisions moving forward. We say, hey, we've spent X dollars, we've got 6 people here. We usually move 80-90% of them. And so this becomes a forecasting tool. And so then you go through this process and you just work your way back up. So you go to first appointment, and then you go to SQLs, and then you would look at pre-qual, and then leads. Now, the reason I put a little dash here is because if you're running marketing, you're driving traffic, you're driving leads, this is actually one of your best leading indicators that your marketing is working well. You're spending money, you're driving traffic, you're getting leads, you get them on the phone, and you say, yes, this is right project, right area, right budget. They're sales qualified. I want more people like this. You haven't closed them yet, and that's okay, but what you do know is that you've got somebody that you want to be talking to. And so marketing is doing their job, because from SQL in, that's sales. We got to book the first meeting. We got to go through that whole process, and then we got to pitch design and move them into construction. So if marketing is generating SQLs, they're achieving what they need to achieve, and you can run your conversion rate, right? You can say, hey, for every 20 SQLs, we get 5 customers. We close 25% of our SQLs. And so you can forecast, even if you don't know this data yet and you're just starting marketing, but you're generating SQLs, then you can look and evaluate it. So it looks something like this. Hey, I spent, 20 grand, and I got these 20 SQLs. And so that means it cost me $1,000 per SQL. And if you know, hey, I'm going to sign 25% of these, I'm going to sign 5 customers. Now we're going to tie this all together. So we're going to take 5 customers and go back over here and go, what is a customer worth to us? $30,000. So 5 customers is worth $150,000 to me, right? 30 per customer, because it's 100 grand. So it's going to be 500 grand in revenue, but it's going to be 150K in gross margin. And we're going to look at what we spent, 20,000. Now this is just the marketing spend, so you may need to add in some sales commissions here and any other sales costs. So we'll say, hey, let's add another 10. So all in, 30K, and that is our cost to acquire. We took our 20K in marketing, we added 10 grand in sales costs, so we put in 30 and we got 150. So again, we're just going to look at this ratio, which is 150, to 30, which is 5 to 1. So we took this as a global, how's our overall engine looking? And then over here, we broke it down by a source. We said, hey, we've spent 20 grand on this one campaign, this one channel, and it produced these 20 SQLs. And so that channel is operating at 5 to 1. Then we go over here, and we say, hey, we're more than 3 to 1. Let's put our foot on the gas. So if this was, say, paid ads, then you might say, well, what would happen if for this next cycle of time, instead of spending 20, we spent 30 or 40? And then you would let it go through the process, see if you still ramped up. If you spent 30 grand, did you actually generate 30 SQLs? Did they eventually move through the pipeline and become, what would that be, 50% more? So 7 to 8 customers. And if those numbers are holding, then you'd run this again and say, yep, it's still at about 5 to 1. Let's increase it again. So this becomes your decision-making process. It's very logical. It's dollars-based. Hey, I put $1 in, I get 5 back. I like that trade. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep growing and hitting those numbers. If you are not tracking this number, then you have to back up into pre-qual and leads. And then you can get caught in a trap where you're optimizing for cost per lead and you're trying to keep that cost really low because you're thinking, hey, I'm spending 20 grand. I would love to just get the most leads for that. But as you can see right here, like $1,000 for one sales qualified lead. But that's okay. We're okay with that trade if we actually get the right number of customers in relation to what a customer is worth to us. And so that's why these numbers you can't look at them in a vacuum. And so when you read the stuff online, all the coaches, the publications, they say, spend 3% of your budget on marketing. There's no context. This process allows you to make the right decisions for your business, which is all that matters. And so you have to start here, which is what is a customer worth to your business? Because I've worked with some custom builders where their customer is $1 million, average custom home, and their gross margin is 25%. And so a customer is worth $250,000 to them. They can spend more to get leads. They could spend $10,000 to get a sales qualified lead. And the metrics would still work if they close 1 out of 4. They could spend 40 grand to get one customer because it's worth $250,000. If I told that to somebody that does bathrooms and their average project size is 40,000, that's top, and if they have a 25% gross margin, a customer's worth 10 grand. So they could not spend 40 grand to acquire that customer. And so you have to run these numbers for yourself. And so again, you're tracking your overall funnel, but then when you go to evaluate, is it working? You have to break it down by channel. Ideally, we're looking at customers because that is revenue that you've already booked. That's gross margin that you've already got. But if not, then you just keep backing up one step at a time and go, okay, it's a little early in the process, so I don't know if I've closed any customers yet, but I do have some design agreements. Or it's a little bit early, but I booked some first appointments, or I've gotten some sales qualified leads. And then you just use the best data that you have, and then you use this to forecast. And so again, if you close 25% of your SQLs, and you say I have 20 SQLs, you're forecasting based on your company's data, not industry averages, other stuff that people will tell you. You'll say, no, we typically close 25% of our SQLs into customers. And so I don't have these customers yet, but I know I've got 20 SQLs. So I'm pretty confident I'm going to get 5 customers out of this bundle of SQLs. It just might take a few more months. But that will give you the confidence to continue to invest in marketing because you know it's producing the right type of leads. So to quickly recap, you've got to start with your engine and see if you have a working engine. In terms of your revenue funnel, you want to make sure that you've actually tracked it from top to bottom and that you can tie these customers back to the original source. This will give you conversion rates through the funnel so you can figure out, hey, are there gaps? Are there areas of the business that I can work on to improve this? And then when you have customer data, then you're going to go look at where are they coming from so that I can pour more money into working channels. If you don't have that, you're going to go bottom to top in terms of the data that you do have available. And then this becomes forecasting, right? Hey, I don't have customers, but I do have SQLs. So I'm going to project into the future Okay, I've got 20 SQLs. Over the next 1 to 4 months, I should get 5 customers from this batch of marketing spend that I just invested into my business. Then I'm going to look at the engine from just that channel. So I'm going to tie it back here and see if I am less than 3 to 1, more than 3 to 1, and if I should do more of that or go back and fix the engine. So that is measure. It is a lot of numbers. It is worthwhile because you'll stop guessing on all of your marketing and sales decisions, and you'll have data that's contextual to your business so that when you decide where am I going to invest in improving, where am I going to invest time trying to shore up some of these conversion rates, that you won't be scattered all over the place. It'll narrow the focus to 1 or 2 things. You can work on fixing those things, and then you can move on to the next problem area after you've re-racked the new conversion rates and moved on from there. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. This was a multi-video series going over the entire Remodeler growth framework. We started with attract, moved to convert, talked about nurturing those leads. Close was all about selling the leads, and then measure, so you can measure your entire sales and marketing funnel and revenue team to see how it's performing and what will help you get to the next level. Now, we're going to be releasing a lot more videos that break down each individual component within each of the pillars over the coming months and year, so stay tuned for those. But otherwise, we'll see you next time here on Builder Funnel TV.